Ouroboros Egoism in Nuce, written by Felipe Bautista. Any knowledge that professes to hold a priori, tells us Immanuel Kant, lays claim to be regarded as absolutely necessary. This means that I cannot pronounce with apodeictic certainty that I am a man, because, after all, as pointed out Zhuangzi, it is logically possible that I am actually a butterfly that is only presently dreaming of being a man. Furthermore, I cannot even pronounce with apodeictic certainty that the empirical world I now happen to interact with is classifiable as some sort of base reality, because not only is it logically possible that I am a butterfly dreaming of being a man, but a butterfly that lives in a world where neither men nor even the planet Earth ever arose. Therefore, were I to dedicate all of my efforts to studying human brain activity in an attempt to provide an account of how human consciousness arises, I'd only be like a child catching at bubbles. Namely, I'd be beginning my investigation with prejudices, petitio principii, prejudices which themselves are not apodictically certain, namely the prejudice that I am a man, and that the men I interact with, and even my sense of being a man, are not mere representations arising in a potential butterfly dream. My aim in the present writing is to advocate for a prejudiceless mode of philosophizing, to the extent that such is even possible, which mode I desire to call Ouroboros egoism. Ouroboros egoism is the view that I am a mind ouroborically interacting with itself, that is, a mind ouroborically interacting with its own immanent representations. Incidentally, it should be noted here that the term egoism, as I am here using it, is perfectly synonymous with the term solipsism. At the present time, however, I desire to distinguish between two different types of egoism, a distinction I have emphasized elsewhere in my Introduction to Ouroboros Egoism essay, and which I'll mention again here. There is dogmatic egoism, a metaphysical position that says, all that exists is myself, as a mind entertaining itself with its own immanent representations. Then there is transcendental egoism, a critical position that says, all I can know to exist is myself, as a mind entertaining itself with its own immanent representations, such that, eo ipso, I cannot in principle know whether other minds, things in themselves, or any transcendent entities/processes of any variety whatsoever exist independent of my representation, viz. Vorstellung activity. In my Introduction to Ouroboros Egoism essay, I defined transcendental egoism as follows. Whether other minds exist or no, minds cannot in principle have any access either to each other or to things in themselves, because minds in principle can have access only to their own immanent representations, viz. Vorstellungen. Ouroboros egoism is transcendental egoism because Ouroboros egoism says that I am not a self that has a mind, rather I am. A mind that not only ouroborically interacts with its own immanent representations, but a mind that can have access only to its own immanent representations. A mind that can, in principle, have access only to itself, ouroborically. Ouroboros egoism, therefore, is compatible with metaphysical solipsism. Metaphysical solipsism being that state of affairs in which, whether I am a dogmatic egoist or no, the sole reality literally is myself, as a mind ouroborically entertaining itself with its own immanent representations. Because Ouroboros egoism, being a species of transcendental egoism, maintains its full force, whether other minds exist or no. Crucially, however, for the same reason that Ouroboros egoism is compatible with metaphysical egoism, it is not equivalent to it. That is, although metaphysical egoism is the situation where I am the sole reality as a mind entertaining itself with its own immanent representations, Ouroboros egoism nevertheless maintains its full force, whether there are or are not other minds beyond myself also entertaining themselves with their own respective corresponding immanent representations. Ouroboros egoism ultimately bears a quite strong resemblance to mystical Buddhist traditions which emphasize non-attachment. It is a natural tendency to be attached to our beliefs and prejudices, especially the belief/prejudice that I am a man, when, as noted Zhuangzi, I possibly may be a butterfly only dreaming of being a man, that there are other minds or intelligences beside myself, that metaphysical solipsism is or is not the case, that either substantialism or non-substantialism constitutes a more adequate account, that the objects of the senses, e.g. houses, mountains, rivers, men, etc., continue to exist after they no longer appear to the senses, that there is or isn't some mind at large of which I am but a dissociation, that reality is fundamentally X or Y, etc., etc. But Ouroboros egoism encourages the philosopher to disattach from all of these beliefs, prejudices, and thoughts, and encourages the philosopher to simply note that particular beliefs, prejudices, and thoughts arise in the field of representation. Ouroboros egoism, in the final instance, is a mode of philosophizing that involves the mind's own observation of its own activity, observing how these or those thoughts, convictions, beliefs, prejudices, perceptions, and representations arise, as they arise, in its representation, forestelling activity. Therefore, Ouroboros egoism is not a philosophical so much as it is a meta-philosophical stance. It does not involve philosophizing so much as part of its self-investigation enterprise, it involves the mind's Ouroboros observation, without attachment, of how even the act of philosophizing and thinking, along with all its other representation, forestelling activity, arises in itself. This, of course, does not mean that the Ouroboros egoist philosopher ought to succumb to nihilism. On the contrary, this is precisely where the Gurdjieffian fourth way becomes precisely applicable. The Ouroboros egoist philosopher can maintain the awareness that I am a mind ouroborically interacting with itself, even amidst ordinary moral activity. Of course, it may be objected against us that the suggestion that I am a mind ouroborically interacting with itself constitutes a prejudice. But I encourage the objector here to reflect within himself and ask how I could in principle be something other than my own self-consciousness of myself. Self-consciousness, or more precisely, consciousness, is inherently ouroboros. To be conscious, that is, to be self-conscious, is to be a mind ouroborically aware of its own activity, even if it falls into Maya here and there, and identifies as a man or as a butterfly, when it is actually a consciousness entertaining itself with its own play of immanent representations. So, what is Ouroboros egoism? Ouroboros egoism is a sort of awareness. It is the awareness that I am a mind ouroborically interacting with itself, ouroborically entertaining itself with its own immanent play of representations. Or, as remarked that sage of Königsberg, appearances are to be regarded as being, one and all, representations only, not things in themselves, and time and space are therefore only sensible forms of our intuition, not determinations given as existing by themselves, nor conditions of objects viewed as things in themselves.